Saram, thank you, Uncle. I just want to give a brief introduction to today's program and also to introduce Brother Prem Anosh. Uncle has already done part of that. Um, the program, on Bhagwan's life is what we are going to have not just today, as Uncle said, Wednesday, and the other programs that are going to happen across Australia and in New Zealand is going to talk about Swami's life, and not Swami's life and the life of Bhagwan's devotees. It's all intertwined because there is no Bhagwan without the Bhakta. So they are all intertwined. But it will be related in terms of story. And why are stories so important? There is a beautiful story that comes in the Bhagavatam. Apparently, when Parikshit, who's about to be bitten by a snake and he's about to die, he is waiting, and Sage Sukha, who is the son of Bhagwan Vedavyasa, he is on his way to tell the story of Lord Krishna to Parikshit in 7 days before he is going to be killed by Takshaka. And at that time, as he is walking, all the gods, they come in front of Parikshit, Sukha, and says, I want to give you this Amrit, this Amritam I want to give you, but tell me those stories. Don't tell it to a mortal, tell me that story. That is what all the gods go and tell Sukha. And he says, no, this one isn't that important. Is Amritam that important? The story of the Lord is even more divine than the divine nectar. Because you take divine nectar, what does it help you? It gives you everlasting life. It doesn't give you moksha. But listening to the stories of the Lord, it gives us enlightenment. And the stories of Bhagwan is Veda itself. You may think that it's just a story. What is a story about? But stories tell you the highest Vedanta. And that is the beauty of listening to the stories of our beloved Bhagwan. And also how he interacts with Bhakta. Each one of us has a story with Bhagwan. And if you pull all that stories, it becomes the biggest Purana ever. Because Bhagavatam is our own stories. When you listen to these stories, each of the story tells a lesson. And who best to tell the story, like Sage Sukha Muni went and told Parikshit the story. We are having Brother Prem Anosh here from Bhagwan's, where he has lived in the modern age, blessing us. He's come from there. And I know he will not tell these stories even to the gods, but he's going to tell us these stories. So we are very, very fortunate. Every satsang is an event we should never miss. Today's satsang, listen to the satsang on Wednesday, listen to the other satsang. Even if you can't go to Melbourne, you can't go to Adelaide, you can't go to Brisbane, you have to listen to the stories. Brother Vishwa there is very kindly recording all these satsangs for us. Listen to these stories and then our life will be fulfilled. Just to quickly introduce Brother Prem, who has come from Prasanthi to tell us the stories of the Lord. He joined Bhagwan's, he doesn't need an introduction honestly. Everyone knows him, it's redundant, but I still have to do that, it's my duty. He joined Bhagwan's University in 1999, doing BSc Chemistry in the Vrindavan campus. Then he went on to do his MSc as well in the Prashantinarian campus. And since his graduation, he has been working with Bhagwan, for Bhagwan, and he joined the Radio Sai team, from where we know him so well. And there's not a day that goes by with, we keep hearing about Prem Anosh, what he talks. So many of his live talks are so famous. And so he's a content creator as well for the media center. And without any further ado, I request Brother Prem Anosh to come here and talk to us about the stories of our beloved Lord. Sarah.
I offer my most loving pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet. I pray to Swami that he gives all of us the understanding that it is always Swami who speaks, it is Swami who listens through each one of us. Respected elders, sisters and brothers, salam to all of you. Thank you for having me here. I was introduced as a guest speaker, but the beauty of any satsangs that we participate in is that we are never a guest. You could be in any corner of the world and one sidearm makes you feel at home, doesn't it? So we never a guest in a gathering such as this. And that is the greatest blessing that Swami has given us. In the modern time when people are feeling alienated in their own home, we are able to find homes wherever we go. It is for namesake I am so far from Prasanthi Nilayam, but don't we all feel at home when in the presence of other devotees of Swami? And I think that is one of the greatest blessings that Swami has given each one of us, and Swami has given people like me to experience over and over again. Many years ago, I think in the 50s, Prasanthi Nilayam was very small. 50 people was a crowd. I'm talking about the 40s and 50s, and it was too much crowd. How many? 50 people, 2 rows of devotees. And Swami was so available, young and running about like a young deer. Slowly the crowds started swelling and people started inviting Swami to their homes, to their cities, to their towns. So the devotees who were basking in this presence of Swami in the 40s were beginning to get a bit concerned. They are getting lesser and lesser of Swami now. So they could guess that this is going to turn out to be really different. But it was, it was not easy for the human mind to conceive what was going to happen. One of the old devotees was once saying that Swami was sitting in their home in one of the towns, a very distant town. And this devotee's house was so simple that there was not even proper flooring in the house. It was leveled sand inside the house. And Swami was sitting there, and apparently Swami was drawing something on the sand, like all of us play with sand, right? And the devotees, curious as they were, they came and asked Swami, Swami, what are you doing? And Swami said, this is my Prasanthi Nilayam. No one had heard that name before. They said, this is my Prasanthi Nilayam. And Swami said, this is where the mandir will be. This is South Prasanthi, this is West Prasanthi. And then Swami said, this is North Prasanthi. The foreigners will come and stay here, he said. The devotee who was relating this episode to us, she said, we went into the room so that we could laugh out aloud. Because that was how ridiculous what Swami was saying was. He was saying foreigners are going to come. And they were thinking the people from the town of Anantapur are not coming here. And he's saying people from overseas are going to come. What is this little boy thinking of himself? Literally. And they all lived to see the Prasanthi rise, and all of you come and visit Prasanthi Nilayam. But a few devotees who sensed that this was going to happen came up to Swami and then they said, Swami, we can see that you are becoming less available to us. In the future, how will people feel your presence? How will people connect to you if you are going to be distant from them? And imagine this was a question of a devotee in the 50s. What would we say then? And Swami had this reply to give. Swami said, in the future, Swami was talking about Prasanthi Nilayam. He said, sitting in this Prasanthi Nilayam, people will share stories of Swami, and that way they will feel connected and feel my presence. But what Swami did not completely reveal is, wherever you are, whichever part of the world you are, whichever part of the globe you are, people will be sitting and sharing stories of Swami and create a Prasanthi Nilayam there and feel connected to Swami. I think that is the beauty of listening to stories of Swami. Talking about Bhagavatam, as Brother beautifully made a reference to the story of Parikshit. There's another beautiful Chinnakatha that Swami would say about Bhagavatam. There was apparently this thief who his profession was to steal people's homes, break into homes, take away their things. So as a very dutiful father, he was handing on the profession to his son. Right? He was training his son to be a good thief. So among the many pieces of advice that he gave his son, he gave him this advice, that you can go anywhere and steal, do anything, but if you find that there is a congregation where there is a man sitting on the stage or standing on the stage and telling some stories and everybody is listening with rapt attention, don't go there. He says, what a weird instruction is this? Why are you saying that? He said, no, just keep away from those gatherings. Swami says that the story proceeds that the son takes up the profession, and one day when he is stealing in someone's home, the police is after him. So the police chases him, and guess what? He finds exactly that same gathering that he was prohibited from going anywhere close to. So he goes and sits in this gathering where people are sitting and listening to some story. It turns out to be a session of Bhagavatam which is going on. There is a man who's telling stories from the Bhagavatam. And this man goes and sits with the crowd just to escape from the police who are after him. And listening to that story, his mind changes. He starts reflecting upon what he is doing in life, and he chooses to change his ways. And Swami would say that is the power of the stories of the Lord. When you open your mind to these stories, without your knowledge, it starts purifying you from inside. Without our own awareness, something starts changing from within. Because anything that Swami would touch, Swami would do, we all revere the vibhuti that Swami would give so much. Right? It's after all a pinch of dust in that sense. But merely because it was given by Swami, it was handed by Swami. It's become like the universal medicine, isn't it? All of these stories are Swami filling himself into it. Can you imagine that? I'm a student of chemistry, so oftentimes, that gets in front of the other things that we do. I was once walking down Prasanthi Pilgrimage, and one of the devotees who had come for darshan just walked past me, and I think he was wearing some very, very strong perfume, right? And it literally hits you, right? So he just walked past me, and I had this strong perfume hit me. I couldn't make out whether it was pleasant or unpleasant. It was strong, right? So instantly, the student of chemistry kicked in, and I started imagining what exactly happens when you smell perfume. Right? Basically, it's a compound that vaporizes. You put it on your skin, and with your body heat, the molecule is sent out into the air, and that comes and enters into your nostrils, and that's how you feel fragrance. This thought for a moment actually made it something from someone's body is coming and entering into my body. Right? That thought suddenly, that's a bit disgusting. Right? He's wearing something on his skin, and that's vaporizing and entering into my body. But the very next moment, the other thought that filled me was, how many times we have got the fragrance of Swami walking past us. Right? In Prasanthi, when you're sitting and Swami comes for darshan, you can feel that, that fragrance coming from Swami. And that thought that something on that divine body was leaving and entering this body, this simple mortal body. What a blessing it is. And he gave it without even telling us that this was something special that he was doing. I often say this, when you give a gift to anybody, it's the amount of money that you spend, right? 100 rupees or $100 or whatever it is. So if you give a gift worth that much money to someone, that's the amount of resources that you're giving that person. But if you give somebody 5 minutes of time, you're giving that person 5 minutes of your life. And you cannot put a price on that. Right? If you have spent 5 minutes with someone, you've given them 5 minutes of your life. And all these stories that we relate of Swami with devotees, and Swami did this, Swami did that, it was Swami putting his life into all of that. And just like that fragrance traveling and entering into us, that life of Swami is coming to us through these words. How can it not transform us? Right? Lifetimes of learning, as the whole idea of Bhagavatam is that, Swami would say this, you have Vedanta, which is very pure and very esoteric. But all the stories of the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavatam, the Leelas of Krishna, they were all nothing but the same Vedanta put in story form. So when you listen to it, you actually don't realize that you're taking in Vedanta. It's just like taking medicine without knowing the ingredients of that. The moment the medicine goes inside, it will do its work. You don't have to know about it. Same is the case with the stories of Swami. When they go in, they will do what they are supposed to do. But for that, Swami says, are you available? Are you giving yourself for that Shravanam? Because we will open our minds only to that which we place our faith in, isn't it? I will not listen to anybody coming and telling me anything. We sort of do that now in social media, unfortunately. But when we open our mind to someone, we will do it only when we have faith. There's another very beautiful episode in the Bhagavatam, which is very, very famous, where Krishna calls all the gopikas for the Rasa Leela. And it's a very beautiful episode. It's filled with many, many hidden truths about Vedanta. Right? The whole episode is actually nothing but the journey of a sadhaka going through the process of going beyond the body. But it is spoken of as, here was the Lord, he was doing the Leela, and these devotees were participating in it. So the story goes that Krishna goes that evening to the banks of Yamuna and starts playing his flute. If you've ever walked beside a river, if you speak, even the person next to you cannot hear. Right? The sound of the flowing river drowns even the voice of the person next to you. But then the Bhagavatam says Krishna plays the flute, and the gopikas in the village hear that Krishna is playing the flute. How is that even possible? And that is why Swami would tell in a very beautiful padyam, Vedasara manta tisi, Nadarupa muganu marchi, Venu vandu tirugaposi, Pata padu ma Krishna. The gopikas say, you take all the Sara or Vedanta, convert it into sound, pour it through that flute and play a song for us. And that is precisely what Krishna did. And these mature souls heard that call and came running. And Bhagavatam describes that they come running and Krishna says, why have you come here? Why have you left all your duties and come? Why did you come here? Go back. And then they argue, they try to convince Krishna that they have come here, they should not be sent back. That altercation happens, and then finally Krishna says, okay, come. He takes them to the bank in the clearing of one of the forests there. And all of a sudden Krishna vanishes again. Right? They've come all the way seeking the presence of Krishna, and Krishna vanishes. And they're left really despondent. They're searching all around the place and they find that he is not there. So, having nothing to do, they say that now we have come here, we have been drawn. we can't go back. The mind cannot go back to the worldly ways now. So they all sit there and each one starts relating stories of their interactions with Lord Krishna. One day Krishna did this. One day when I was carrying a pot, he did this. One day he came home and he broke into the kitchen and he did this. And each one was relating all of their beautiful experiences with Krishna, and they were so lost in that. And eventually, after some time, Krishna comes back. So one of the things that Krishna tells after he comes back is, he says, "O gopikas, I left you and went away. Don't dislike me for that. Don't be angry with me for that. Because by nature, whatever I do, it is only for your good. Whatever I do is only out of love." And he says that I left your presence, but all the while my eyes were on you, and I was seeing what you were doing when you thought I am not around. I wanted to see when your mind was thinking that Krishna is not around, what was your mind engaging in? And Krishna says that you sat and you spoke about me. You shared tales about me, and that drew me back to you. How befitting it is to what we are all going through. Right? He gave us a taste of His presence. He gave us a taste of His love. And then, cruelly it seems, He drew Himself away from us. But we can be absolutely sure He's sitting and watching what are we engaging ourselves in what we believe is His absence. I was talking to an old student just a few weeks back, and he was narrating this episode, that when he was a student in one of the Trai sessions, Swami told them some beautiful story from the Mahabharata, which is not popularly known. So he was relating this beautiful. Swami was telling them the story, and this boy liked it so much he made a mental note. So when he went back to his hometown, one of the Samitis, they invited him to talk. That's one of the things, if you're a student of Swami's college, everybody believes by default you should know singing bhajans, giving a speech, and chanting Vedam. Kind of forced into that, talk about peer pressure and societal expectations. So this boy was invited to give a talk in one of the centers, and he remembered the story, so he narrated the story to all of them, and they all liked it so much. His vacation gets over, he comes back home, and Swami comes up to him, and Swami said, "Hey, you narrated that story well." Swami said, "You narrated that story in that center, you narrated it well. But then why did you leave out this part?" Right? Something that he had forgotten to narrate. Swami said, "You left out this part." It seemed like a very small episode, right? I mean, having heard the many miraculous happenings in Swami's devotees' lives, that seems like, yes, Swami just kind of acknowledged. But this boy, the next time when he went for vacation, he went home and he said, a center like this, with a chair like this, he said, "I narrated a story here, and when I went back, Swami said, it was nice and you missed out this. What does that mean?" He said, "It means he is sitting here, isn't it?" For me, there is a difference between standing before Swami in Prasanthi Nilayam and narrating a story, and coming to a center far away where there is a chair, there is an altar, we are all sitting here, and me narrating a story. That difference is there in my mind. But from Swami's point of view, there is no difference. He's here, isn't he? The moment you put a chair for Swami, he is there. And unfortunately, our small minds keep forgetting that, right? It keeps forgetting that. Quite recently, I narrated this in a talk, and I actually reconnected with a classmate of mine to just get this episode from him, because it had happened when we were all students in Swami's college in Vrindavan. We were all sitting in for darshan one day, and Swami comes up to this classmate of mine, and Swami says something to him which he didn't get. But for a moment he thought that maybe Swami is not talking to him, because he's not one of those boys whom Swami speaks to regularly. So he looked both sides, and no one seemed to react. And he could see that Swami was actually looking at him, and then he paid attention to what Swami was saying, and Swami said, "Tell your mother she will be fine on Monday." Swami says, "Tell your mother she will be fine on Monday, and I will come and see her." And this boy was like, why is first of all Swami talking to me? And secondly, what is wrong with my mother? She's absolutely fine. So then he goes back and he doesn't know what to make of it. Is it some cryptic message, or is it really meant to be that his mother is unwell? So after he goes back to the hostel, he says, maybe I should make a call home and find out. So he makes a call to his home, and the first person to pick up the call was his father. So then the father asks him, what happened? You suddenly called. So the boy says, I want to speak to mother. So the father says, no, you tell me what is it. So the boy says, no, you give the phone to mother, I want to speak to her, because Swami clearly said, tell your mother. So he said, give the phone to mother, I want to speak to her. And for some strange reason, the father was refusing to give the phone to the mother and kept telling that, you tell me what it is. So finally this boy had to say that, Swami came up to me and Swami said, tell this to your mother, so I have to physically tell it to her. And then the father says, oh, okay, so this is what's happening here. He said, your mother is paralyzed and she cannot speak and she cannot get up. And this boy was shocked. He had no clue that this had happened. He said, when did this happen? His father said, a few days ago. And why didn't you tell me? They said, we didn't want to bother you. But here was Swami coming and telling him, tell your mother she will be all right on Monday. And this was a Friday, right? And then the father says, but don't worry, because Swami has been coming here. This boy said, what do you mean by that? Swami has been coming here. Then the father says that your mother is lying in the bedroom, she cannot leave the bed, but we can see Swami standing in front of her and speaking to her. He says, what do you mean see? And the father says, me and your sister, we can see Swami standing there and talking to your mother. And we can see that she is also able to see Swami from her expressions. This boy is saying that I couldn't make out anything of what was happening. Is it really happening? Is this something that's true? So then he comes back and he tells it to one of the elders in the hostel. He says, this is what has happened, this is what Swami said. And for some strange reason, this elder in the hostel tells him, anyway, you just be prepared, because when Swami says she will be fine on Monday, you don't know what that means. Swami might cure her of all worldliness. You never know. And this boy got really worried. It's precisely why you should never speak Vedanta in the wrong place. Right? You should see the level of the person who's listening, and then accordingly Swami says, you should speak. Even if you're speaking the most beautiful of truths, if the person in front of you is not ready, then your words are doing disservice. And that's precisely what happened to this boy, and he got really worried. And now he had to wait 2 more days to find out what is going to happen. And Swami said this on Friday. Saturday, Sunday, Swami is not looking at him at all. Swami is not even coming and speaking to him. And then on Monday he he became very restless. And when Swami was coming for darshan, he got up. And the moment Swami saw him, Swami came up to him and Swami said, I went. Your mother is fine now. She's all right. And he was relieved, first of all, that Swami was coming and telling him this. And Swami materialized some vibhuti and gave it to the boy. And Swami said, you have little, and remaining you send it to your mother. So this boy was very happy. So then after this whole darshan happened, he went back to the hostel and he called up home. And this time his mother spoke. And she was narrating how that morning on Monday, Swami again appeared in their house. Swami held her by the hand, made her walk, which she had not walked for almost a week, took her to the garden. Swami made her walk around. And Swami materialized Vibhuti and gave it to her, which was in her hand. And Swami said, "You will be fine." The Vibhuti that Swami had materialized to his mother in his hometown was in her hand. And here in his hand was the Vibhuti that Swami had materialized for him in Vrindavan, saying that send it to your mother. The idea of distance, the idea of space, the idea of physical presence or omnipresence, I think these are all lines that we draw in our mind. He is that supreme continuum of time, space, and everything, isn't it? He is there, here, right now. And the whole thing that we are all trying to do is, what should I do to make His presence manifest? What should I do to ensure that I am living in the awareness of that presence every moment? Right? That is the most challenging thing. And whatever Swami did in his physical sojourn was a constant reminder of only this. Again, as a student of science, I always take recourse to this. If I do an experiment in the laboratory, say I do an experiment about surface tension or gravity or something like that, the contraption in the laboratory is to show to me how this force of physics or chemistry works. It would be ridiculous of me to say that gravity works only in the physics laboratory. It doesn't work in the chemistry laboratory. Or it is absolutely stupid of me to say that, this chemical behaves like this only in the chemistry laboratory. When the Lord comes down as an avatar, it is a manifestation of His nature, which is always true. What the Lord was before 1926, what the Lord is after 2011 is the same. But between that period, what He does is, He allows us in our human perspective to see what He is. Another classmate of mine was once narrating that this again happened in front of us in Vrindavan. As Swami would come to the Jula, he would collect letters from different people and the students sitting there. And one day Swami was sitting on the Jula and going through some of these letters. And Swami suddenly pulled out one letter and Swami called out a name, which happened to be one of my good friends. And this boy immediately rushed in front of Swami. And he sat there. And then we could make out that Swami was reprimanding him for something. He said, "This is not right, you should not do like this." And Swami had a frown on his face and he was visibly upset. And this boy was not saying anything, he was just standing there and looking down, accepting whatever Swami was saying. And then all of a sudden Swami turned to all of us and Swami said, "You know what this boy has done? You know what he has done? He has written a letter to Swami with his blood." Right? This is what Swami said. He has written a letter to Swami with his blood. And Swami said, "This is not right. This is not something that I encourage, and this is not devotion," and all that Swami went on. But then, Swami must have felt ayo papam. And Swami materialized a ring and gave it to him. And immediately turned around and said, "This is not any indication for you fellows." He said, "Tomorrow if any of you do this, I'll throw you out. Don't expect a ring from me." So this episode happened in front of us, and then we later asked the student, he said, "What got into you? Why did you want to write a letter to Swami like that?" And then this boy says that actually I just wrote a letter to Swami with a red ink pen. Then why would Swami do that? Right? Are you trying to tell us that Swami got fooled? That he saw a red letter read writing and he thought it's written blood. Then this boy said, this happened probably when we were an undergraduate. Then this boy said, but when I was in my 8th standard, I once wrote a letter to Swami and I signed with my blood. Even the smallest act, which is done in our own stupidity, in our own, foolish thinking that this will please Swami, reaches him. Right? There is nothing that misses his eye. You have done it out of your love, it reaches me. And this is true even today, but an episode like that reminds us. Right? Because we sometimes require that feedback system. Right? Swami, I'm doing so much, is it really reaching you? Does it really touch you? Does it really mean anything to you? Today, Swami's ways of showing that are different. Right? But for me to start trying to do something to Swami, this mind needs some validation, some proof that whatever small thing that you do for him, it reaches him. It reaches him. Another senior of mine, Swami would do this often when he's in Vrindavan or some small gatherings like this. Swami would come and say, I'm going to ask a question. Whoever answers the question will get a reward from me. Right? And that reward could be anything from Swami materializing a ring or a bracelet. And that day the reward was, Swami said, whoever answers the question will come with me to Kodai. Right? So it's a 100 mark question it is. Right? So Swami said, whoever answers this question, and if you've been through a few sessions like that, you know that the answers are fixed. Right? Because you know that Swami has come that day thinking that he wants to bless one student, and the question will go round and round till that one student answers it. Right? Different ways through which Swami was interacting with us and showing his love and making it so interesting for us. I always used to think that, as teenagers, Swami had to capture our imagination. Swami had to keep us interested in, what is going to happen tomorrow. Because I remember during my summer vacations, the one side of you wants to go home and eat home food. Right? You had 10 months in the hostel and you want to, when will I go home and, just be at home, like not the hostel schedule. So I remember every day in the summer I'll say, okay, I'm going home tomorrow. Come darshan time, come Trai session, Swami will do something and will say, no, I can't leave this and go. I can't miss this. Right? It's no credit to people like us. It was what Swami was constantly doing to capture our mind and keep our focus on him. So that one particular day Swami comes and says, okay, whoever is going to answer this question is going to come with me to Kodai. And Swami asks some question, and invariably it will be some tricky question from the epics. Something Swami will ask, what is Vibhishana's wife's name, or what is something Ravana's sister's name. Apparently one of the questions that Swami had asked, I was not there, I heard this from another friend of mine. Swami asked that when Hanuman went and met Sita with Rama's ring, what was the first question that Sita asked Hanuman? Yes. So you know the answer. So the first question she asked is, which finger did Rama remove the ring from? Right? So apparently he removed it from his thumb. And the moment Hanuman said this, Sita was very happy. Because apparently he had to wear it on his ring finger, but because of the separation from Mother Sita, he had lost so much weight that he was wearing the ring in his thumb. And she felt happy that Rama is missing me. So this was one of the questions that Swami had asked. What was the first thing that Sita asked Hanuman? So some nice tricky questions like that. So that day Swami asked some question, I don't know what it was. And the question went around. And it came to, as I said, the boy who was fixed for the day. And sometimes it will be even more obvious that 3 other people would have given the same answer. But Swami would say, no, not the right answer. And came to this boy, and this boy said something, and Swami said, correct answer, correct kachupadu, come, Swami said. And Swami materialized the ring and gave it to him. And the moment Swami did this, one of the senior teachers actually became very emotional, very visibly emotional. And Swami turned to him and Swami asked, what happened? What happened to you? So the teacher said, Swami, I'm so delighted that you picked this boy because he's one of the most sincere students in the hostel. He wakes up before everybody else, he works in the kitchen, whatever extra work which is, it's not really expected of him, but still he comes and does, whether anybody is watching or not. He's a very proactive boy. He's very constantly wanting to do something for Swami. And the senior teacher said, Swami, I'm so delighted that, this boy is being rewarded today. And Swami looks at him. And Swami asks, you think without knowing all of this, I randomly picked him? So he said, do you think I randomly picked him like that? And then for the next 15 minutes, Swami starts speaking about what all this boy does in the hostel. And then Swami speaks about his father, who goes to Swami's mandir in Hyderabad at 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, just to clean the place, which nobody knows, and starts telling all the things that his father does as seva in Swami's mandir, which even the son did not know. Right? And the senior teacher was hearing this whole thing, and Swami said, you think it was random, is it? And this teacher became all the more emotional. And then Swami looked at him and Swami said, no, this is not the surprising part. The most surprising part is that you are still surprised. Swami said, the surprising part is you are still surprised that I know. When you do something for me, how will I not know? When you offer something to me, how will it not reach me? So as we go through life, this question, this doubt will keep coming to us. Swami, are you really seeing? Are you really there? Is it really reaching you? Is my plea really reaching you? Right? And he will have his own ways of showing that yes, it has reached me. But even to take that first step, you need a little bit of confidence, isn't it? We need that self-assurance. And that assurance we get when we constantly keep listening to such stories from Swami's life. Because this didn't happen to some devata or some angel or something like that. It didn't happen to some, great devotees. It happened to people like you and me. It happened to simple individuals just struggling the same way with love and devotion like you and me. This happened to simple individuals who have colored and checkered lives, where sometimes they are really good and sometimes they fall. And when we constantly listen to these stories, these are assurances that when I call, he listens. When I need, he will come. And I think that is why listening to stories of Swami's Bhagavatam is most important. Because that surrender, that ultimate Atma Nivedanam which Swami speaks about, it starts with Shravanam. It starts with just sitting and allowing him to enter us through the sense of hearing. And it is nothing short of Swami's immense blessing and love that he's given some of us the opportunity to carry that story of his. Right? Carry it in our hearts and share it with people like you, and I cannot be adequately grateful for that. I express my immense gratitude to Swami for that, and I thank you all for your patient listening. Hopefully in the days to come I'll have the opportunity to share more such stories which touched us. Right? I always say this, when we were studying, we used to have this commercial on the TV of one of the very famous cricketers endorsing a motorbike brand. And And we were all such fans of that cricketer, we knew that he can't even ride a bicycle. And he was endorsing a motorbike brand and saying this is the best motorbike, right? We are not here like that. We are not telling you stories or endorsements which somebody has asked us to tell. We are sharing stories that have touched us. The love that he has inspired in our heart, I think it is too difficult to contain. It overflows. And I think that is what we are doing through these narrations. So thank you very much. If there's anything more to discuss or you have any questions to ask, I'll be very, very happy to take them. Yes.
The story from Mahabharata, which you mentioned, but did not narrate that story.
Which one?
The story of the Mahabharata story that the boy went and said in his Samiti and he missed the
Okay.
part.
So I don't know exactly which was the part he missed out. So the story was actually about Bhagavad Gita. And Swami was saying the original Bhagavad Gita was not in the form that we all read, 700 shlokas. And Swami says the only person other than Arjuna who heard the entire Gita, and even Arjuna could not remember everything. The only person who heard the whole thing and remembered it was Hanuman. Right? Because the story goes that Hanuman blesses Arjuna saying that I will be on the flag on the chariot. So apparently only Hanuman heard the whole Bhagavad Gita, and he had actually written it down, not in Sanskrit but in Pisachi, that language which is actually a dialect. So he writes it down in that language, and this is what story Swami had said, that the original Bhagavad Gita is much more concise and it was written in that language. And apparently that's one of the languages where it was conversational also. So I think that was the story. I don't know which was the part he left out, but that was the story.
Brother,
Yes.
remember that professor or lecturer was surprised
Hmm.
when Swami said to him that, you think I picked him randomly.
Hmm.
See, that is actually Swami's Maya overpowering, We all know that he's the Lord of the universe,
Hmm.
but yet we at times forget that, the basic fact.
Right.
Do you mind narrating one more incident where, such kind of people like close to the Swami who are overpowered by that Maya and,
That happens all the time. In fact, that happens more than the time when we realize who Swami is. But I remember a beautiful episode which one of the great devotees of Swami who served Swami physically close by, Ramabrahmam, Mr. Ramabrahmam, who was in Vrindavan, the caretaker. I mean, he would have to deal with Swami's Maya on a daily basis. Right? All kinds of things will happen. Like Swami will get upset about the food or something like that, or Swami will say, "Give me this and it is cold." Very, very random things you would say. You will forget that this is the Lord, the embodiment of love, who's just an angsty young man. Literally, that's the idea that Swami will give you. So apparently somebody asked him, "How do you keep yourself together? How do you not let Swami's Maya affect you?" And he said, "When I am in Swami's presence, whatever he asks me, I tell him, and whatever he tells me to do, I get it done. But constantly, he says, in my mind, I keep contemplating, he is Shiva, he is Shiva, he is Shiva, he is Shiva." He says, Swami will remind you once in a while, but it becomes your duty to constantly remind that. And for Swami's part, I think every now and then Swami will give you a glimpse of that. Is another beautiful episode a senior was narrating. He said one day Swami comes up, the students was sitting, and Swami pointed to one devotee in the distance. He said, "Hey, that devotee, that old devotee, he takes a very nice bath." Right? Of all the things that Swami could tell, Swami said, he takes a very nice bath. And then Swami describes the whole process. He takes this particular herbal powder, and then he takes ghee and he puts it and he sits for so many minutes. The whole process. The boys are sitting there and wondering, where is Swami going with this? And almost for 10 minutes, or what seemed like a really long time, Swami stood there and described the entire process of bath of this random devotee. And then Swami looks at the boy in front of him and Swami asks, "Do you also take bath like that?" He says, "No, Swami." And then Swami asks, "Did you take bath?" He said, "Yes, Swami." Like, why did you ask me? And then Swami laughed. And Swami walked away. The boy sitting next to him, he pats him. He said, "Hey, you didn't have bath today, man." So apparently they had an early morning exam that day. And this boy woke up late and he rushed to the exam, and then he came back, he had his breakfast, and he had just come away for darshan. He had not had bath, and he had forgotten that he had not had bath because we generally don't do that. And this whole thing Swami did just to remind him that I am not in front of you only when you are sitting here. I am with you all through the day. Right? And that reminder, again, another story I was recently narrating in one of the talks, happened to one of my classmates. Swami was calling him for interviews every other day. So he had to be ready, right? Any day Swami would come and call him for an interview. So one day he wakes up very late and he had a bad cold. So he knew that Swami might come and ask for him. So he quickly got ready, finished his bath and got dressed and went to try. And the moment he went to try, he realized that his cold had become bad and his nose was running. And he puts his hand in his pocket, he had forgotten his handkerchief. So he says, "Oh my God, I hope Swami doesn't call me for an interview today." Because you can't sit in front of Swami and have a running nose, right? And guess what? Swami calls him. You always expect the unexpected, right? So Swami comes and calls a group for an interview, and Swami says, "You also come." So he goes inside, and the group is sitting, and this day he doesn't go right in front, he sits a little further away. And all through that interview, the only thing running in his mind is, "Swami, if you turn a little that side, I will wipe my nose with my sleeve." Right? Imagine sitting in front of Swami and that's the prayer you're making. And Swami was so involved in what he was speaking, and he was thinking, "Swami, just turn a little, I'll just wipe my nose. Then I'm good for the next few minutes." And he's waiting and waiting and waiting, and very briefly Swami turns like this, and in the swiftest of actions he wipes his nose. And the moment he does that, Swami looks at him. "Chi dunna pota." What is this? Is this what you do? Is this how you wipe your nose? And then Swami tells him in the most matter-of-fact, casual manner, "This is why you should wake up early in the morning. Then you'll have enough time to go about your bath and everything, and you'll remember to keep a handkerchief in your pocket." Right? In a very, very casual way, Swami told him what went wrong with his morning schedule. So he said, "See, this is why I tell you should be, wake up early and all that." And Swami said, "Ayyo Papa." He waved his hand and materialized a bunch of handkerchiefs and gave it to him. Swami said, "Petko, Vadko, use this." Right? So that thing, imagine, I find this very, very beautiful. You're sitting there, in your Veda you say, he has eyes everywhere. You speak of he faces all directions. His feet are everywhere, his hands are everywhere. And here you are sitting in front of him and saying, "Swami, turn that side. Don't look at me for a few seconds." Right? That is the power of that Maya, right? That is the power of his. I think if he doesn't do that, we probably will not relate to him as much. And that's precisely why that Maya comes. There was another episode which someone was narrating. There was this lecturer in Swami's college who had done something which Swami was very upset with. Swami was very upset that this person had done that. So one day Swami comes up to the portico and pulls up this devotee, and Swami says, "Why did you do like this?" And Swami says, I'm going to throw you out." So this person falls at Swami's feet and he says, "Swami, I will not do this again, please forgive me. In some lapse of discrimination I did it." And Swami said, "Okay, last warning. If you do this again, I will not spare you." Right? And then Swami goes away. A few weeks or a few months later, again Swami comes to the portico and pulls up this devotee, and apparently he has done it again. Right? And Swami was livid. Right? The people who are sitting in the portico, if again Swami had turned a little, they would have run away from that side. That's how angry Swami was, and you don't want to be around when Swami is sizzling like that, right? So Swami was very upset with him, and Swami said, I'm not going to spare you now. Swami said, get up and leave. And when Swami is very angry, sometimes he'll start speaking in English. Swami said, get up and leave. He said in English, leave. And Swami said, don't show me your face again. So this devotee got up, and it looked like he was going to take Swami's Pad Namaskar, and Swami stepped back. Swami said, no Pad Namaskar. Get up and leave right now. So this devotee said, Swami, I will leave. Swami said, yes, you have to leave. I'm not giving you the choice. So he said, yes, Swami, I will leave. But before leaving, just one thing I want to ask you. What is it? Swami said. Swami, can you please tell me that place where if I go to, I will not be showing my face to you? Just let me know which is that place if I go to, I will not be showing my face to you. And Swami was so angry, instantly he cooled down. Instantly Swami cooled down, and Swami said, and Swami looked around and Swami said, see, this was probably the most critical moment in his life. He had left his job in some other country and had come and settled in Parthi, and Swami was throwing him out. It can never be undone, right? Swami said, even in this most critical time, he did not forget who Swami is. Swami said, I forgive you. Right? So the onus of remembering that Swami is everywhere is on us.
Sairam, brother. Thank you so much for coming all the way from Prasanthi and sharing these stories. We are very privileged to see you. A question is, as a devotee, as I age in my life, I want the faith to grow in me as well. But as millennials and humans, when we face the most challenging times of our life, like you talked about science, the sinusoidal way where we go through ebbs and flows, how can we continue to have the faith all the time just so that we do not leave Swami?
So I think most often what happens with us is like when you first come to Swami, especially when you come as young, you're filled with a lot of idealism. Right? It's very easy to get attracted to Swami. It's very easy to have that, what we think is perfect faith, which actually it is not. It is nothing but untested faith. Right? It is good. It is good to have that kind of faith and surrender. But it is only when we go through life that faith gets tested. And only when it gets tested, it gets strengthened. And I think that is what happens to all of us. Right? When we make commitments to Swami, oftentimes, Swami has his own way of pricking your ego. So as youngsters, we would go and tell Swami, Swami, I would like to dedicate my life to you. Swami would hold his beautiful lock of hairs and say, Inta mandi chusandra. He would say, I have seen this many people, don't come and do this drama in front of me. Right? So at that time you will feel that, no Swami, I am going to be a different person. But the truth is that commitment which we make when everything is going fine in our life is different. But the real test comes when, as we go through life, you say, Swami, I want to hold on to this. Right? So when ups and downs come, I think we should be happy, because which means Swami now believes or trusts that we are ready for that. We are ready for our faith to be tested. Right? We are not still in that kindergarten where you're protected, you're given lunch, you're made to sleep. Right? You're let out into the wild, in the sense. Swami believes that now you're faith. But it is natural that it will go up and down. But I believe that it is only getting strengthened. Right? At one point, you will find that the ups and downs come and go, but that doesn't affect you. Right? Typically, like The most standard example that I can give is learning to drive a car. Right? We cannot say that I will drive the car when all the traffic clears. That's not the purpose of the car at all. But there will come a time when the traffic really doesn't bother us at all. It is not because the traffic is not there, because we have mastered driving. And that is what Swami is leading all of us to. So hold on to that idea, that if your faith is being tested, then be happy that Swami has found you worthy of that test. I don't know if that made sense. Yes.
So what was the life, day life of a student then? How will you explain? Every student wanted to know if you tell, they will feel like they were there.
The day of a student, one thing I can tell you, it moved really fast. Before you realize 3 years of it would just go by. And that was by design. Right? And in fact, if you want to replicate what Swami had done with youngsters, that is one thing we all have to. Swami ensured that we were so busy that we had no scope for doing anything silly. He kept us so very busy, and brother will know. Everywhere else, Sunday is the off day. In Swami's college, Sunday is the busiest day because we have to show up for morning darshan. We used to wake up earlier than, even on the normal days, we wake up early, 5:30. On Sundays, we have to wake up at 4 o'clock. We have to finish breakfast by 6 and go to Mandir. So the whole idea of the off day was not there at all. And festival days are more busy, right? Where everybody else has a relaxing day. But I think that was Swami's design. He kept us absolutely busy all through. And that schedule, I think the trump card that Swami used, at least what it occurred to me was, Swami would tell us when we were students, I don't want my students to do any sadhana. Don't do any meditation and this and that. If you follow the hostel schedule from the first bell to the last bell, right? Because our life was between bells. So we said, if you follow your hostel schedule scrupulously, so we said that itself is the sadhana that I expect from you. So after Swami making it so easy, we better not complain. But when you really look at it, Swami was once narrating this in a Trai session, that if you take a day, the day can be split into capsules of 4 hours. Swami would say morning 4 to morning 8 is Sattvic time. Right? And morning 8 for the next 8 hours, Swami would say it is Rajasic time. And then again 4 hours you have Sattvic time, followed by 8 hours of Tamas. So if you see Swami's schedule, it was planned in such a way that the Tamasic time you're not supposed to be awake, you're not supposed to study, there is no activity, 10 o'clock lights are off. And that morning time, 4 to 8, was the time Swami would make us do Suprabhatam. Swami would make us involved in some sort of prayers. And that morning time of 8 to 4 in the evening, I think. That was the time you're supposed to be given to activity. So all our classes, our laboratory work, everything was there. And again after 4, that time is for Swami. That is not for anything else. So it looked like it was random. It looked like it just came up organically, but Swami had planned it in such a way. So there are many people. In fact, once we had done a satsang on the radio, on the hostel schedule. Recently, I think a 70-year-old physician from the US was telling us that after he heard that discussion, he started following that whole schedule. He said, if this is a schedule that Swami has set, then being Swami's devotee, why shouldn't I follow it? And he said, after I started following it, my health has improved, my practice has improved. Right? So I think it really is a very important thing to pay attention to, the way Swami did the whole thing.
Thank you very much, Brother Prem. Let's give him a round of applause for this time.